Clara from Planet Earth, and I was just living the most boring life ever until a stranger at my door changed my fate. Before I continue, please like and subscribe. I lived with my single dad in the countryside. I never knew my mom because she left when I was a baby. And even though Dad fed and clothed me, he was always too busy to ever hang out or do anything fun with me. Like on my 6th birthday, I begged Dad to throw me a bowling party, and he said yes. Though on the day of the party, all he did was put 8 bowling pins in our freaking driveway. It was so embarrassing. Oh, and did I mention we all had to share one balloon? But that lame party was just the tip of the iceberg. No, the real issue was that Dad and I just had nothing in common. Like, I loved mushrooms, and he was allergic to them, so we could never have mushroom soup. But he loved hot dogs, and I hated them with a passion, so he was pissed that we could never have them for lunch. We couldn't even agree on pasta shapes. I mean, why would anyone like macaroni? They look like short, fat slugs. I wanted spaghetti, and his idea of a fun Saturday night was watching the news and screaming at the TV while I wanted to go watch a game or attend a concert. Dad was always telling me I was like a hyperactive toddler, which I thought was better than being a couch potato. So yeah, when I wasn't at school or hanging out with friends, I was stuck feeling as bored as ever. Then one day in 11th grade, we got a strange visitor.
May I come in? I have to speak with you about something urgent regarding your daughter, Clara.
Dad and I felt suspicious, but decided to hear him out, and then he hit us with some wild news. I wasn't my dad's real daughter. Apparently, the hospital nurse had accidentally switched me at birth with the royal queen's baby. Very funny. What, so you're here to tell me I'm actually the Princess of Denmark? Cool story, bro.
Yeah, not really. I have the proof right here.
Holy fudge, he was right. The queen's husband wasn't alive, but she was, and she wanted to meet me.
She wants your father to come too. You see, when you were switched at the hospital, your father's real daughter was given to the queen by mistake. You probably know her as Princess Ida, but she wants to meet her biological dad.
Wow, so I really came from a royal family? Secretly, I wasn't too surprised though. I always had a feeling me and my dumb dad couldn't be related. We drove to the palace that weekend, and when we arrived, I couldn't help noticing how fancy everything was. I was so busy admiring my surroundings that I didn't notice Princess Ida storming in with a woman running after her. Your Highness, you must come to the gathering tomorrow night. Prince Carl will be there. Your mother was hoping you two could get engaged someday. Nope, not happening. So stop asking me about it. You don't need to stick your gum on my face, Your Highness. That is very impolite. Tell Prince Carrot I said hi. Prince Carl. Holy cheese balls, that was Princess Ida, my dad's actual daughter? I found out later on that she was famous for neglecting her royal duties and being totally irresponsible. Finally, at dinner time, I was scheduled to meet my mom, and when I saw her, my heart practically stopped. She was so beautiful and elegant. I guess you wouldn't expect less from a queen, but still,
My precious girl, I can't believe I'm finally seeing you after all these years.
I couldn't believe it either. Throughout the dinner, I found out Mom was the sweetest person ever. She wanted to know everything about me. Dad had never shown that kind of interest in my life before. She even insisted I stay the night in the guest house. I was just drifting off to sleep when suddenly I heard crying coming from down the hall. I tiptoed out of my room and found Ida sobbing on the stairs.
I hate my life. I'm not even 18 years old, and Mom's making me get engaged. Can I just say, I've met Prince Carrot before, and he has the longest nose hair I've ever seen. I'm sorry, but that's a deal breaker.
Come on, it can't be that bad. I'm sure there's a way to convince him to trim his nose hairs. It's not just about the nose hair. I'm just sick of all the pressure that comes with being a royal princess. You have no idea what it's like. I mean, it sounds kind of fun to me. Don't scream at me, man. It's just that I have the most boring life ever. And just then, I had a brilliant idea. Maybe somehow, Ida and I could switch lives. I'd tell Dad Dad that I wanted to learn more about where I came from and bond with my mom. And Ida could ask Mom for some time off so she could bond with Dad. I pitched my plan to Ida right then, but she wasn't satisfied. We could do that for a while, but what if you convinced Mom to give you the throne inheritance instead of me? That way, we'll both be happy. I'll get less responsibility, and you'll have a crazier, more exciting life. Are you kidding? I am so in. So the next morning, Ida and I convinced our parents to let us switch homes for a few months so each of us could bond with our biological parents. Wait. Mom was excited, though, to teach me about royal life. It was Dad who would have trouble accommodating his work schedule so he could get to know his daughter. I moved into the palace soon, and everything was amazing. I adored Mom. I loved living a princess's life, and Ida told me over the phone she was feeling more relaxed. The only thing was, I was having some issues adjusting to royal life. Like, why did my gown have to be so long, and why did it have to be so tight? I guess one of the servants could tell I was uncomfortable because she told me I looked like I had period cramps. And the worst was the food. Living with Dad, I always thought I had a sophisticated palate because he had the palate of a baby. But that was before the cook served me snails.
Go on, taste the escargot. I want to see the joy on your face when you taste how delicious they are.
Delicious indeed. Have you seen that wall over there? Well, one day, I was taking a walk in the garden when I suddenly tripped over a sharp rock and fell down hard.
Are you all right, miss?
I looked up to see a guy my age kneeling over me, and I couldn't help notice how handsome he was. Yeah, just a clumsy fall. I'm really scraped up, though. He pulled me up gently, and when we made eye contact, I felt my heart go wild. The guy said he'd get me some herbal treatment, and when he returned, he started tending to my wounds. I found out his name was Stefan, and he was the gardener's son. Oh, thank God. You're just some poor servant. I mean, it's just been a little difficult being around all these royal snobs. No offense.
Okay. Well, what are you doing here in the palace anyway?
I told Stefan everything that had happened in the past couple of weeks, and the whole biological parent-daughter mix-up.
So, now that I know you're royalty, does that mean I have to start bowing at your feet?
He smiled at me, and I felt myself blush. From that day on, I started visiting Stefan every day when I had free time and helped him in the garden. And eventually, he asked me out, and I said yes. Our connection had been instant, and once I started
Jujutsu Kaisen Phantom Parade, the game actually already has over 3 million pre-registrations, myself included.
spending time with Stefan, I sort of forgot about everything and everyone. Like at one point, we were having a late night date, and I was really surprised when I got a FaceTime call from Ida because I hadn't thought about her in weeks. She told me how she talked to the Queen, who was super impressed with how much I'd learned about royal life in a short time. I can't believe how well everything... Clara, you seem distracted. Yeah, I'm on a very, very enjoyable date with my boyfriend. You have a boyfriend now? Yes, I'm dating the gardener's son, Stefan, and I think he's the world's best kisser. Clara, you cannot date one of the palace workers if you want to become royalty. This is common sense, ma'am. Oh, please, it's 2023. I could still take over the throne and marry a common boy. Listen to me. I don't want to inherit the throne. I thought this plan was about both of us being happy. So unless you want me to throw myself off a cliff, you better not screw this up. Ida did have a point there. So I told her I'd think of a solution. But a month later, trouble escalated. Mom said she was having an important dinner with some officials, and she wanted me, Dad, and Ida to come. I asked if Stefan could join too, and Mom said yes. She wanted everyone to hear the announcement she was going to make. As you all know, I was reunited with my biological daughter, Clara. For the past few months, she's been staying here and learning everything about the royal workings of the palace. After months of consulting with authorities and our council, we've decided that Clara is going to inherit the throne instead of Ida. When Ida turns 18 next week, she'll be giving up her royal title altogether. Everyone at the table went silent, and I saw Ida beaming at me happily. Our plan had actually worked. Mom had even consulted Dad, and he agreed to it because he thought it was the life I wanted. Just then, I saw Stefan looking over at me with his dreamy blue eyes, and I knew then that I had to bring the issue up. But as I told Mom Stefan and I were together, she just stared at me with this really confused expression. I don't understand. I told you you're going to get engaged engaged to Prince Carl sometime this year, remember? You're not actually asking me if you can marry my gardener's son, right? Well, I don't know about marriage. I'm only 17, bro. But Stefan and I do love each other, and if being royalty means I can't be with the person I love, then I don't want to be a princess. Mom looked like she was about to have a stroke. Your Highness, if things continue going as well as they are between me and Clara, we do want to get married one day. Lots of commoners marry into royalty. But I already had a plan and fiancé in mind. Do you know what I went through fighting to get you the royal inheritance? Yes, I thought doing this would be the best for the country and take a load off Ida's shoulders. But the real reason I did this was for you. I missed your childhood and most of your adolescence, and I missed the chance to give you my love. So I'm giving you that love now. I knew her heart was in the right place, but the royal life she described was not the one I wanted for myself. So I refused to accept the throne inheritance and left the table. But Ida ran after me.
Are you crazy? 6 months ago, you went gaga over the idea of being a princess, and now you're giving it up so you can date some stupid herbivore?
First of all,
I said Stefan likes plants. I didn't say he eats plants. He's a boy, not a rabbit, duh. Okay, I don't even know what we're talking about anymore. Why did you even make this deal with me if you weren't gonna follow through? It may have been some meaningless game to you, but this is my life, and it's not a joke. I know, and I'm sorry. At the time, I really did believe I wanted to switch lives with you, but I think what I really wanted was a little adventure and excitement, and Mom's a lot more fun than Dad. And now that I finally got that, I'm realizing I don't actually want to be a royal princess. I didn't mean to manipulate you or Mom, but I can't sacrifice my happiness like that. The next morning, I went back with Dad, and both Ida and Mom cut contact with me. I felt guilty because I knew what I'd done was pretty selfish. Though Stefan and I kept dating, and we moved in together after I graduated high school. Then one day, I got a scary phone call. It was Mom's secretary who told me that Ida had fallen really sick and went into a coma, and they weren't sure if she'd ever wake up. The Queen isn't doing well either. Everyone's worried about her, about Ida and the state of the monarchy. I was numb with shock. Worst of all, I felt like this whole thing was my responsibility to fix, since the Queen was my mom, and I had refused to take over the throne. I went to the hospital that night and found Mom sitting by Ida's bed, and she was actually relieved to see me. I helped out with palace duties all that week because Mom refused to leave Ida's bedside. I was starting to reconsider a lot of things, so one night I asked Stefan to come to the hospital so we could talk. You know that my mom really needs me, right? I love you so much, but I think she has to be my focus right now.
so are you breaking up with me? Are you gonna try and take Ida's place as a princess because she's in a coma?
It's more complicated than that. I just don't want to put my needs before my family's again. I'll never forget you, Stefan, but we can't be together. And just like that, I broke up with the guy I loved that night. I asked Mom the next day if I could go away for a few days to get my mind off of things, and she said yes. I went to stay with Dad and told him everything. Can I tell you a secret? It's really awful.
What is it?
I wish I'd never known that Mom and Ida existed. I hate that I feel responsible for Ida falling into a coma. I know that's an evil thought, though.
That's not evil, Clara. Your life changed a lot when you met your mom. In some ways for the better, in some ways for the worse. But I think she taught you a lot, more than I ever did. I know I should have done more for you as a dad.
Nah, I was a pretty bratty kid. I am still convinced, though, that spaghetti's a superior pasta to macaroni. Dad just laughed, and I started to feel better. Then, a few nights later, I got a call from the nurse with insane news. Ida had woken up from her coma. I returned immediately to the hospital to find Ida when I ran into Mom talking with Stefan.
Clara, I overheard your conversation that night with Stefan in the hallway. How you two broke up because you wanted to take care of me and your royal family. And it made me realize how selfish I was, trying to get you engaged if you were going to take over the throne. So I called Stefan over and told him that I wanted you two to be together. Also, I don't know if I told you, but my dad isn't just a gardener. He's also a herbal healer. That's why I know so much about plants. plant medicine. I asked my dad to do a healing ritual to help Ida out of her coma, and he did. I breathed a huge sigh of relief and hugged them both. Everything had worked out, except... Wait a second, does Ida still hate me because I didn't take over the throne? No. Once I told her that she didn't have to get engaged to that prince and stopped putting so much pressure on her, she realized she doesn't hate being a princess as much as she thought.
Well, that was good to hear. Stefan took my hand right then, and we ran to go see Ida.